I'm Latham Woodward, and this is Project Terroir, a special edition before I leave for my extended trip to Europe and the rest of the United States to talk to artisanal farmers and talk about regenerative processes and talk about recycling and Project Terroir and what we're doing to make purchasing and acquiring agricultural goods something that's accessible to everyone. Today's subject is recycling. Currently, many retailers in the United States are selling products that come in packaging that are not sustainable, and they frankly make me insane. So just going to use one example here. Now, to their credit, I have noticed that Amazon has been utilizing more recycled paper delivery sacks, which is great. And I just think they're probably trying to integrate into more of a universal approach to this. They probably have a ton of those bags left, the plastic ones, and they're probably trying to use those up at this time. So kudos to them for at least trying to get this thing rectified and go to a more sustainable packaging methodology for shipping. That being said, retailers across the country are constantly utilizing plastics and non-recyclable containers to ship stuff. And why is this a subject on Project Terroir? Mainly because these things go into a landfill. No ifs, ands, or buts. We have a very big plastic problem in the country, whether it's the enormous amount of plastics in the Pacific Ocean that are currently being attempted to be cleaned, or whether it's just the landfills in your village, a river in Vietnam, China, parts of Europe, Russia. They're finding huge environmental impacts on the ocean, the rivers, streams, and our wetlands, not to mention just our dry farming lands. So this is a very important subject that needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with soon. Plastic is a non-sustainable thing. And when you hear people say that, oh, we're recycling plastic, or you have a bin out in front of your house that says recyclable plastics, that is simply not true. Right now in the United States, up to 90% of the so-called recycled plastics are not being recycled. They're going straight into a landfill. Don't trust me? Look it up. Look it up on Google. Find out the facts for yourself. But the reality is these products are not going into recycling programs. So be very cognizant of what you're doing when you're buying plastics and what you're doing with them. So let me bring up two examples here. This came to me with a Thai noodle, disposable Thai noodle, instant Thai noodle thing. Pretty nice container. It's not bad. It's got a resealable thing. This was intended to be used once. That's not even rational. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So with regard to these kind of things, if you're going to buy things like this, use this 25, 30 times. Use it as many times as you possibly can so that you can maximize the use of it. If you find a way to repurpose these things, whether that's you could be taking this and putting it into starting sprouts, perhaps in your garden, maybe sprouting new seedlings. That's a great use for this. I don't know if I would grow vegetables in something like this because of bisphenol and all sorts of chemicals that could be released, but at least you could start them in there. But these things are not single use. Reality, not single use. This should be used many, many, many times, much like the backdrop here of this old truck. This truck is currently going in. It's not mine, it's a friend's. Going in for complete rehab. It'll be back on the road with an electric power plant. So that's very good, and kudos to him. So recyclable containers, especially from restaurants, if you have any sway and you have any way you can tell that restaurant, please don't use these things anymore. I'm not going to patronize your establishment any longer. You should do that for almost millennia. Chinese restaurants, Japanese restaurants, Asian restaurants have been using the paper, which is far more biodegradable than the plastic containers. But I have been seeing an upsurge in use in the plastic containers. I would say if you have any way you can influence your restaurants or local grocery stores from using these kinds of things, you should do that. There are many, many cardboard alternatives. There's a recycled cardboard. There is paper that's been treated in a certain way that can be recycled if you wash it and then put it into your recycling container or your paper container. Recently, now here in California, we have a company called Clover Milk that all of their milk containers are recyclable and they can be placed into the recycling paper bin. So look for things like that, especially in the milk product category, that you can actually recycle the milk containers. Right now, there's an advent and a new push on seltzer drinks in the grocery store. Everybody has them, LaCroix, Pellegrino, whatever. There's thousands and thousands of drinks out there, soft drinks, whatever. They come in a can like this. And for those of you who are younger than I am, perhaps, you probably didn't know you just cut the top off of these things. And you can use them for small planting containers. So you can cut them off halfway, utilizing a sharp pair of scissors that you want to throw away. And you can put small plants in them, poke some holes in the bottom, and use them for starts. It sounds so stupid that I'm even talking about this, but the reality is there's so many more uses for aluminum cans than we currently use. It's not just going into the recycling bin. Thankfully, a lot of aluminum. I think it's up to 75% of aluminum is currently recycled. And that's at least in the United States and Europe. So that movement is firmly gaining hold. And we're looking at aluminum as something that can be utilized continuously in our ecosystem and recycled continuously. I've even seen a recent show on YouTube of some great pioneers that are living in a sustainable environment in Portugal, young group of people who are utilizing aluminum cans as roofing materials, which I've seen before. But it's just yet another way of utilizing a material that we currently have in our environment to do the greater good. Aluminum is a great material and it's used everywhere in our world today and is 100% recyclable. So try to find creative uses for aluminum cans. For God's sake, recycle them if you don't have anything else to do with it. For many years, my family, we have been utilizing a 1.5 liter, or it could be a 2 liter polar container. That's POLAR, available in most restaurant supply houses. We keep it on the countertop and we take our bags from the grocery store. We take old Ziploc bags that are past their prime, and we take prime bags like this one, the plastic ones, and we utilize them as garbage receptors. The reason we do this is mainly because that can sits on our countertop. If you don't like, exposed garbage, put a top on it, buy yourself a lid for it. But the reason we do this is to be cognizant of our waste, to be cognizant of what we're throwing away, to always look at what you're putting in a garbage can. It's an easy thing to do, and it will really make you start thinking about what you're throwing away, what you're buying at the store that has excess garbage in it that doesn't need the packaging, for instance, and you're utilizing that can as a receptacle to guide your waste practices. A couple other things you might not know. If you take, for instance, some cereal, and you take your Cheerios, let's just use that as an example, and you finish the bag of Cheerios. If you open that bag carefully, you can utilize that bag again as a receptacle for garbage in this polar can that you keep on your countertop. Forget about the floor-based garbage can. If you have a recycling effort for paper or you have green waste, put 1 to 3 cans on your counter. They're not very big. They're about this big. And they go on your countertop, and it makes you very cognizant about what your waste practices are. I heard about this years ago from another person on YouTube, I believe, and we've been following these practices ever since. And it really works for us, and I think it's going to work for you. It's a great way to be really in tune with what you're doing waste-wise. One of my personal pet peeves and general peeve about recycling and things that could be recycled that aren't, along with plastic containers from the grocery store and restaurants, are these. A zipper bag. This one goes by name of Ziploc. There are many, many other brands of these. These are fantastic. I mean, they're amazing products. They do amazing work in the kitchen. You can take them camping. You can take them to school. You can do anything you want with them. They're fantastic. The problem is that too many people use these things once and then throw them away. These are not engineered to be used once. That's ridiculous. They should be used 20, 30, 40, 50 times if possible. You should be utilizing these bags indefinitely. And when they stop being good for food use, you should utilize them to keep paper goods in, other recycling products, toys, anything. A box of 20 of these things should last a typical family for a year. I'm not kidding. They should last a year. These are amazing devices, and they should be treated as such. We've come to the point at which we regard things like the Ziploc bag, like this thing from Amazon, and like the plastic containers from restaurants and grocery stores and the like as disposable objects. They're not. And just the very fact that we've started to treat things like this shows that we don't have a care for the earth. We don't care that these things are going into non-compostable environments. They're going into landfills. They're going into lakes, streams, rivers, creeks, all around the world. This is an irresponsible use of something that's actually quite well engineered and engineered for long-term use. It's important that if you have friends that utilize these things once, that perhaps you have a talk with them and say, this is not a disposable item. This is something that can be used many, 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 many times, indefinitely, so long as they don't break and spring leaks. Even if they have a small leak in it, you can always use it for paper goods or storing toys or crayons or whatever you want. These are not disposable items. And I personally have an invention I've been working on for quite a while to make sure that you can clean these things and you can make them recyclable in your home indefinitely. Find uses for Ziploc bags that aren't traditional. Do not throw these things away unless you absolutely have to. Take the time, recycle some water in your sink with some soap in it, clean them out thoroughly with a sponge, and let them dry. Great tip here. You can use a whisk, a large whisk, turn it up on end, and stick your Ziploc bag over it so it dries thoroughly. Remember, turn it over so it evaporates as well, depending on where you live. California here in the North Bay of San Francisco, they dry pretty well, but they turn them over. I know it's easy to say, or like, well, why are you telling me how to clean bags? Because I care that you use these things. It's my biggest pet peeve is the Ziploc or zipper bag that is not being utilized continuously. So that being said, tell your friends, don't use Ziploc bags once. I think you're going to be finding that we'll have a better earth for it. In the next segment, we're going to be talking about farms in Europe. In the next few weeks, I'm going to be posting some videos from France, and I'm going to be interviewing local farmers market people selling goods. I'm also going to be hopefully traveling to some communal farms where I have visited before and talking to them about their practices and what they're doing to make a difference. Terroir is a French word. It means the earth, the very earth that you grow from. It means the character of the earth. That's the reason for this podcast. It's everything goes back to what you grow in. If you're growing in dirty soil, you're going to get dirty goods. If you're growing in over pesticided, I don't even know if that's a word, in environment or ground, you're going to get very terrible produce for you health-wise. The most important thing is we do things sustainably. You should be trying to do things sustainably and stop this movement toward faster, cheaper produce and vegetables. It's not impossible to get really good quality vegetables at a decent price. And I think you're going to see some movements from my side with Tamalpais Holding Company and Project Terroir toward that goal. That's coming in 2024 and 2025. You're going to see a lot of Tamalpais Holding Company's efforts being on the forefront of efforts to get things into the market and directly into your hands in a safe, sustainable fashion at a great price. Look for that soon. But as far as the next couple of weeks go into mid-October, I will be broadcasting from France in a number of locations and hopefully talking to some great people about what their practices are and what they're doing to change the perception of agriculture in those areas, especially with people. The French have an amazing awareness of what they're eating. To utilize them as a goal in terms of their adaptation of a biodynamique, which is a standard that is the same or higher than EPA organic standards, and to live it, because they realize that a lot of their enjoyment in life comes from what you eat, how you eat it, and knowing the story of the person who's grown this. It's important and everyone should do it. So look for more from me from the European continent in the next couple of weeks into mid-October. And I hope to be bringing you some amazing stories about some interesting people growing great things and making a difference in their communities. If you have anyone you would like to recommend that is doing an amazing job at sustainability, regenerative practices, and organic type of growing environment, please refer them to me. And I will make sure that we get them mentioned, not only on the show, but perhaps give them some marketing push that they need for their business, because that's what this is all about. If you don't know about a farm, you don't know about a farmer, you don't know about their practices, how are you going to find them? You can find us at Project Terroir 707 at gmail.com. That's Project Terroir, Terroir 707 at gmail.com. We're always looking for interesting stories. We're looking for interesting people, and we're looking for stories about people who care not only for themselves and their earth, but for you, the consumer, and what you're doing. So until I return and bring you up to speed on some other things that Project Terroir is doing with Tamalpais Holding Company, I encourage you to follow your own path and find great things from great people that you can buy and eat on a daily basis. Thanks again. I'm Latham Woodward, your host here on Project Terroir. Until next time, a biento.